Hello again, everybody. I'm Snapper Lancaster, welcoming you to another edition of the Central Alabama High School Sports Show. Well, folks, I knew sooner or later this day was going to come. Not only am I welcoming you to the show, but I'm also telling you that this is going to be my last show. Snapper has put in 20 years and never thought that the show would last that long, but thanks to people that the high school principals, athletic directors, everybody involved, all of my sponsors that I've had through the years, and I'm not going to try to name all of them because I would miss one of them, and I don't want to miss any of them. They know who they are, but without them, the show would not have lasted this long. I'm one of these guys that I appreciate the viewers, and what we've done in that 20 years, believe it or not, and I have to think about it. And another special thanks before I get away from it is my producer, Chris Sima. Chris has been with me for a lot of years, and I guarantee you my shows wouldn't go on without him. But then there's one special person that I want to recognize, because without that person, half the things I've done on the show would have never gotten done, and of course that is my wife. She has been the true trooper behind the scenes, I guess, and she's done so much for me, helping me prepare for my shows, getting me information. When I started out in high school sports, doing the play-by-play for Vestavia, little did I know through the years my wife was going to become just as much a sports fan, if not more than I. She'll point out a lot of times things that I might miss, and so I can tell she's been paying attention through the years. But I want you to know it's been a wonderful 20 years. Never thought it would last this long, but thanks to everybody, it has. Now, tonight, I've got a special show lined up in the finale of it. I'm going to be visiting two very important people. The winningest coach in high school football here in the state of Alabama, and his wife has played such an integral part in his life as well. And I have known Miss Linda for a long, long time. And I look forward to spending some time with her, spending some time with Buddy, and talking about what has happened in our life the last 20 years. So we'll take a quick break. When I come back, first guest of the evening, don't you go away.
Sometimes it's all about training, other times competing, but every so often it's about healing. Andrew Sports Medicine's world-renowned team of doctors, surgeons, and specialists use leading-edge technology to treat your specific injury or condition to help you overcome anything. To schedule an appointment, call Andrew Sports Medicine 24 hours per day, 7 days per week at 205-939-3699.
Welcome back, folks, and as you can tell, I've got my first guest up here with me, and for a lot of people that thought it might be the coach, well, we're going to have plenty of time to talk to Coach Buddy Anderson, but right now we're going to talk with the lady behind the coach, and I've come up with a new phrase. She wondered where it come up from, this beady little mind of mine. I want you to realize that this is the lady that I'm now calling the First Lady of Alabama High School football, because her husband is, of course, Buddy Anderson, and we're talking about Miss Linda. I've always called you Miss Linda, and I think I've gotten away with it okay. But awfully good to see you. And how does it feel to be the wife of the all-time winningest coach in the state?
I don't think of myself as all-encompassing, that is it. You know, it has been such a joy week by week, moment by moment, often.
When through these years, Miss Linda, I know that you've been at Buddy's side. Does that mean that you made almost all the games on Friday night?
I would say yes, except there were two babies I had and had to miss those two times.
Well, you know what? I think that's for a good enough reason where you could have. But I knew I would always see you there after ball games. You would see you and Buddy together. I just got used to it. Where Buddy is, Linda's not far away. And did you ever think that early in Coach's career that he would ever be as successful as he turned out to be?
I never thought that far ahead. I knew I had married an amazing man, the man I fell in love with, my Prince Charming. We both were called at different times, but called. This has never been a job; it's been a calling. And when you have a calling, you are side by side with different responsibilities. Some of them might seem bigger than others. For me, it might be baking a couple of batches of cookies. For last night, it was 20 boys,
Right.
and I felt like I was, many times I felt like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And when I think about her when she was, in that old house trying to make something wonderful out of something bad.
Right.
And all the time, he was coming home, and he's my Prince Charming. So.
Well, now let me ask you this. Early in Coach's profession, were there ever times, or did he go through spells where he ever wondered if he made the right decision or not to get into coaching?
Not one time I can remember that, because he was called when he was in high school. Very special place, a very special, I know the truck, the place. I mean, I've not been to the place, but when you have that kind of almost a biblical situation with Christ, that it's there and it's permanent, and I knew that there were greater and greater things down the road, but it wasn't because of accolades, trophies, awards. It was because the kids. We love working with students, whether they're young or middle school, high school. That's the joy.
Well, now, I guess through the years, Friday night probably became a tradition for you and your family, your children and grandchildren, to be at the stadium where your husband was.
We were right there. I watched the clock. I watched him a lot because he knows the rules inside and out, and the official knows he knows the rules.
Yeah.
And he's very, I won't say vivacious, I would say he is for his kids, and he's going to stand up for them, and he's going to go for them, and they're going to, he wants those rules met so they can have the best opportunity to do their best and make those scores that they've worked so hard for all week.
Well, I know that dedication's a big part of it. Did those Friday nights at the stadium, do you ever get tired of it? Did you ever think, I could just stay home and he could tell me about it?
Never. I would be miserable if that had happened. We had traditions. I would meet him a certain place before the game. We'd have a quick kiss and say good luck. See you at Victory Field. It's a very short little dialogue here.
Well,
And at 3 minutes.
I learned early that y'all had that moment.
Yes, we did.
A couple of times I was almost there and I had to shoo away because I said, this ain't where Snapper needs to be right now.
And at 3 minutes, when I watched the clock, and when it started ticking, win or lose, when it got to 3 minutes, I got up, whether my girls were really small or in middle school or high school. I got up and made my way because I had told him I would see him at Victory Field.
If you had to do all over again, looking back, would you change anything?
No, I would do it all over again.
I think that's about the most positive compliment a wife or a companion could give their spouse. The no regrets, and through the good and through the bad, you are always one.
That's right.
That's the most important thing, isn't it? How did you manage to support the kids and grandchildren all through your husband's career? I mean, you've been a busy lady.
I've been a busy lady. I was thinking the other day, and I've done a lot of writing, and some of it's been to make sense of my life and what we're doing, and how football teaches lessons even for wives and mothers and grandmothers. But we would be I'd be with my friends and the little girls toddling around, and they would be catching them so they wouldn't fall, because I was so focused, you know. I was watching him, watching the kids, the guys, and they were trying to help me hang on to my children. But it's just always been such a joy.
Well, it seems like that y'all have had a wonderful relationship. And
We have.
I tell you what, if I would hope that I've watched you and Buddy through the years and in the private parts, and it makes me think that's the way that I want it for me and my wife. There should never be a time that we don't have them or rank them number one in our life. Of course, it may be 1A, the Lord's number one, but they're close behind. But Miss Linda, I've enjoyed talking with you all through the years. I'd sneak a little bit of time every once in a while, but I know that come game time and y'all get busy, you have your moments, but it's time for Buddy to go to work that Friday night, and
Right.
You have been a very big part of it. Awfully glad you.
Well, it's been such a big part for me, and there are many times that people don't know. We have made traditions that no one knows about, like our midnight picnics in the middle of the field, and our dances on the moonlight on a late Sunday night when he still had hours to go. Because you make time for those you love, and it gives them energy to catapult that success to even greater heights, because you're doing it together.
The thing we can end this a positive note on is you've still got more years to enjoy that relationship.
Oh, yes. And still, I just feel like, you know, when God calls you to something, he doesn't say, well, that's it, no more kids, no more working. I think there's going to be more and more times that we will have opportunity to work with teenagers or FCA or whatever. My little grandson called me tonight, and he said, Grandmommy, can I just come over and throw the ball with Papa? And, you know, there's just, you can't divide all those special relationships out, because it all comes together as one big, wonderful, wonderful life.
Well, I tell you what, I'm glad you decided to share a few minutes with me. I will treasure
I'm
this.
honored.
And I want you to know, how does it feel to be the first lady of high school football from the state of Alabama? That's your title as far as I'm concerned right now.
Well, no one's ever called me that. You know, I've wondered about, and I've watched, I've never thought about me, but I've thought about first ladies, presidents, first ladies, and those that were out in the open and those who were in the background, and whether it be small government, big government, this being a sport. I've never thought that of me. I've thought of me being hopefully a completer, someone who is well, for the kids and for Buddy, to be someone who's not who can be an inspiration, but to do it quietly and not try to take any of the spotlight goes to the kids. It doesn't go to either of us. It just happens because he's great.
Well, thank you so much for visiting with me, and
Thank you.
The best of luck. And hope you and Coach Anderson have a wonderful life the rest of the way. Okay,
I feel we should.
folks. We've enjoyed our visit with Miss Linda. Next, number one man in the state of Alabama as far as high school wins, Buddy Anderson will be joining us. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Stretch, work out, sweat, repeat. When it comes to fitness, you go 24/7. Now, so does Andrews Sports Medicine. So when an injury interrupts your routine, Andrews offers 24/7 scheduling for most appointments. Andrews Sports Medicine can help you overcome anything, including time. Call them 24 hours per day, 7 days per week at 205-939-3699.
And welcome back, folks. As you can tell, I am joined on the set here by the person we've been talking about a little bit with his wife in the opening segment. Now we're talking with him, Buddy Anderson, the head coach, ex-head coach now of the Vestavia Rebels. Coach, good to see you.
Good to see you, Snapper.
And I'm tickled to death that I not only get to sit down with you, but this was a treat to have
Yes,
Miss
it
Linda
was.
join me. Buddy, did you ever, in the beginning, first, how did it start? As a young man, you had to love sports. What kind of sports did you play? What was your favorite sports growing up?
Well, my dad was a high school football coach for 31 years at the same school. I just grew up, and my earliest memory of my life was 3 years old. I was on a football field. That's my earliest memory. And then as I got older, I became this water boy. The old-fashioned water boy. You took a bucket and a dipper and you'd take it out on the field. And I was his manager, and then I started playing. And he said he never wanted to coach me or my brother, and so he didn't. I wish he had, but he didn't. Right. But he had retired before that. My brother and I played, and then I went on and played it at Sanford. But before that, I was dealing with my life. I can remember the night that I gave my life to Christ, and my mother sat down with me and talked to me and said, buddy, maybe God has something for you in the world of sports, because you love sports, whatever ball's bouncing, you want to play it. And so I was 11 years old at the time, and she said, something like how God is using Bobby Richardson. And of course, you will remember Bobby Richardson. Not everybody would know Bobby Richardson, but he was the second baseman for the Yankees in their heydays in the 50s and
Mickey
60s.
Mantle,
Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris. But Bobby Richardson was kind of my hero, because he was the first one that stood up and had Bible studies, and team chapels for the Yankees. And so, of course, as an 11-year-old little boy, I thought, man, and maybe I might be to take his place at second base for the Yankees. And, that didn't quite happen. I love baseball. But here again, like my mother said, basketball, I love basketball. I love football. I love playing all of them. But I kept praying, God, surely you have a plan for me. What would be planned for my life? And through a lot of circumstances, it all came to the time where I knew what it was, and that was January 12th, 1968. And it was probably about 9:30 at night, and I was sitting in my dad's old pickup and outside the stadium, and had played a basketball game before, and I felt God calling me to be a high school football coach. There was no audible voice, no bolt of lightning, but he spoke to my heart. I want you to be a high school football coach.
But had that been your favorite sport?
No, I loved all of them, and probably loved baseball as much as anything. But football, I had an opportunity to go to college, play football, and that's what I wanted to coach, and ended up coaching a little bit of everything. But because if you're a coach, especially in high school, you need to coach more than one. But God called me. I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And there's a lot of things that fell in place where I ended up at Vestavia. And Coach Reynolds hired me, and he said, you're going to be the offensive line coach, the JV baseball coach, and the junior high wrestling coach. I said, great, what's wrestling? I had no clue, but I love the sport. I love coaching that sport.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever envision in your wildest dreams that you'd not only be a football coach, but end up being one of the best football coaches to ever come out of this state? Right now, win-wise, you are the best one that ever came out. Did that ever enter your mind?
No, it never entered my mind, and that never been a focus. And I never dreamed that I would be at Vestavia for 49 years, but I have, and be the head coach for 43 years. I was assistant for 6 years, and when I became the head coach in 1978, I was all of 28 years old, and never dreamed that I'd still be there, at this time, but God had plans, and God had a plan for my life and our life, and hadn't always been easy. It's been some tough years, but the thing about those tough years, you love those kids as much as you do the kids that won a state championship, because they need your love and they need your guidance just as much as the ones that do the win the state championship.
Buddy, talk about the early years in your coaching career, the change in the game, because I could only say this now because I think you're a nice enough man, you won't hit me for it. But there were times when your bread and butter was running the football. And there are times you've told me, Snapper, if you go to throwing the football around, there's only one good thing can happen and two bad things can happen. And I never quite looked at it like that. He was absolutely right, but it still didn't mean that I didn't like to see the ball thrown around the ballpark. But, Buddy, what was it? I know you were a true believer in the running game, and then the game starts to evolve. The passing game becomes more important. To a lot of coaches at that time, it wasn't Buddy, because me and Steve sometimes would be in shock when the last thing we expected was you to pull a pass play. Somebody might be wide open. They'd be so wide open they ain't used to it, they'd drop the thing. And we'd say, good night, Buddy finds signs to throw it and they don't catch it. But talk about your philosophy, why it took a while for you to come around, but you finally did, because you had the athletes that could execute, I guess.
Well, it boils down to the athletes you have, them, what they can execute. And, you know, right or wrong, my whole career, I was, even with the exception of 1 year, we were in the I formation, because I knew the I formation. I knew you could adjust to what your talent, you know. Some of your talent sometimes can throw the ball real well, but you got to have the receivers too. Plus you got to have protection. You got to have three elements of that. But, you know, you ask any of the college coaches today, even the professional coaches, they tell you, you've got to be able to run the football. If you can't run the football, then you're going to have a hard time winning. And not that that's all you want to do. And sometimes it seemed like it. I had one of my, Rick Grammer, my receiver coach, I remember we were playing one game, and he wanted to throw it a lot. And we were playing, I forgot who we were playing, and we were just running the ball, and they couldn't stop us. And I was going to call a pass play, and he goes, "No, don't do that. No, don't do that. Let's just put the ball in the end zone." You know, I'll never forget that one. But you know, it depends on your talent. You know, I mean, there's some years we've had quarterbacks that could throw it real well. But you got to have some receivers too. Right. My offensive line coach for years, Mike Howard, his son was my quarterback, Ryan, for 3 years. Started from him for 3 years. When, bless his heart, I think it was his senior year, our best two receivers were about 5'5" each, and he had to make perfect throws because he couldn't throw them high, right. At least a bit high, because they couldn't make the catch. So you got to adjust to what talent you have, and sometimes the quarterback cannot throw it very well, or sometimes the receiver can't. But if you've got the receivers that can, and you've got the quarterback that can, and if you've got the running backs to run the offense and to have the offensive lineman, you can do a little bit of everything. And we, you know, the best teams I had were teams that were, you know, kind of well balanced, and right. Had a quarterback that won for Brent Spigner, and his time to playing was 96, 97, 98. His record was 39-3, and the three losses was one of them was to Jeff Davis in the quarterfinals, and they ended up winning the state, and they were a real good football team. And then his junior year, we lost 2 games, one in double overtime and one in triple overtime. And we lost the semifinal in triple overtime. And then his senior year, we went 15-0. But he was a master at running offense, as far as, you know, and the passing game was part of it, because we ran the ball enough to make those linebackers stay in the line, and then we could throw behind them, and we had receivers that could make the plays. And so we were averaging throwing it, you know, 14 or 15 times a game. People never realized it because we were running the ball too effectively, but, you know, And if you could have a balance like that every time, it'd be great.
I was going to say that you get that combination both going for you. It gives you a whole lot better chance to be successful, right?
Right.
Folks, want to remind you again, we're talking with Buddy Anderson, and the #1 coach in wins here in the state of Alabama. We're going to take a quick break, pay a few bills. We'll come back and visit a little bit more. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Sometimes it's all about training, other times competing, but every so often it's about healing. Andrews Sports Medicine's world-renowned team of doctors, surgeons, and specialists use leading-edge technology to treat your specific injury or condition to help you overcome anything. To schedule an appointment, call Andrews Sports Medicine 24 hours per day, 7 days per week at 205-939-3699.
Welcome back, and folks, once again, we're visiting with Coach Buddy Anderson, our special guest tonight, along with Ms. Linda, who has come with him. Buddy, what do you think now that you're finally leaving the coaching? Because I haven't had a chance to ask you this along this line, but are you still going to be at the school a little while, or are you looking at a certain time to retire?
I'm still going to be employed as a dean of students, and I'm at peace with everything, and I've struggled this the last year or so, and we probably would have gone ahead and retired at the end of last year, but then all that COVID stuff hit, and I couldn't be around my players. I couldn't. Right. Only thing I could do was a Zoom, and I can't talk to somebody on the Zoom so I had to be able to get in front of them. So it was. The superintendent asked me if I would consider coaching one more year, and I talked with Linda and my daughters, and they were all very supportive and whatever we want to do, and they said, we feel like you need some closure, and I felt like we got the closure. Of course, what a different year this year was, right. And this year's still not over. I just saw tonight was that one of the states that seems to be out of control with COVID cases is Alabama. Right. Well, we still haven't had but one forfeit in a playoff game, right. And we got several this weekend as well as next weekend and the following weekend. Hopefully they won't have to. Credit goes to Coach Savarese and our state association and the central board for, biting the bullet and saying we're going to do everything we can for all of our sports: football, cross country, volleyball, swimming, which is going on. All that's going on right now, and then basketball is starting, wrestling is starting, and indoor track will be starting soon. Where kids can compete, kids need something right. to be out there, and so my hat's off to them that our state has made that statement. And we've had some. We had to forfeit 2 games because of the COVID, but it's hope I've answered your question, Snapper. Yeah, I'm kind of in a roundabout way.
Well, and let me ask you this too: as you step down, what do you see in it seems like high school football is as popular as it's ever been, and I don't know if it's the competition, the style of play, or what, but what do you see happening the next 5, 10, 15 years in high school football?
Well, the thing is, I'm disappointed in the most. I say disappointed. What I see changes, and used to high school sports was a community against a community. When you grew up and you were, was it Jones Valley? Mm-hmm. Jones Valley. It was Jones Valley against West End, or Jones Valley against Inslee, or Jones Valley against Ramsey or Phillips or whoever. We're losing that concept of a community against community because, and I not throwing daggers at anybody, but I think the travel teams that we have, travel sports, where say, hey, come over here and play with us. We're going to play on this travel team. And they say, well, why don't we get together and play high school ball together? And I think that's not good. That point of good. Travel team, AAU teams are good to develop skills, but when you lose the community aspect of it, that's not good. And so that's the biggest change I see. Technology's changed things, tremendously also. And, I laugh at sometimes technology is not the most important thing, but because it depends on those guys on the field is most important. But we had one of my coaches, they were Bruce Evans and Mike Howard, they were coaching in Sylacauga, and they went to play somebody, and they were asking, well, what's y'all's radio frequency on your headset? And they said, what are you talking about? Well, we just don't want to be, we just want to be on this different frequency so we won't mess each other's headset up. And the guy looked at me and said, well, it's just two of us. He stands on that end, I stand on this end. And I said, how is it down there? And he'll say, it's fine down here. How is it on your end? And he said, and then Coach Stahl said, well, man, we're going to whip them pretty good. Said, we got beat 42-0. So, technology sometimes doesn't always do it, but, there's a lot of changes that, have made. But it's still great. Football is a great sport. All the sports. Football is a great sport and teaches so many things that a young man needs to learn.
Well, what, Buddy, getting away and going down the road a little bit, what's the future hold for Buddy Anderson at this point in your life? Getting away from the sports, the football team, I would think that the top of the list for you would be maybe spending more time with your family.
Well, Lynn and I have had more time already, and I'm helping with an off-season program at our 9th grade school right now, and my granddaughter's at that school, and I take her home every day, and that's been special, and special time, and I'll come by and we'll pick Linda up, and, we'll go see some of the other grandchildren, or, we get to go out and do things, and, that time is only going to increase, and, God still has a plan. I wish I can say exactly this is what it is, but I know He has a plan, and that's what we want to do. Lynn and I both. We want to follow His plan because we've been doing it for 49 years, and He still has a plan. It's just not actively as a head coach, but it might. I have no idea what it would be.
Well, as you look back, as we close in on sort of the end of the interview, as you look back, is there anything you would have done differently?
No, I can't think. I guess think of a situation where I should have been a better man right there. I should have been a better mentor to these kids. Those things. But there's nothing I would have done different. I'll try to, maybe correct some mistakes I made in my career because I've not been perfect, but but I've been perfectly committed to fulfill God's calling for my life.
Well, as we end this conversation, Buddy, how, and it's a thought-provoking question, I guess, how would you like to be remembered, sports-wise as well as a man?
Well, just as a person that did it the right way, because I tried to follow the rules. It was as much as I could, because I'm a rule follower. I feel like we have rules and laws that you need to follow, and I need to set that example for my kids. I couldn't go out and illegally recruit a player to come to my school if I've talked to my kids about integrity and character. I think that would be just totally wrong. And so hopefully remember that I try to do it the right way and try to do it with our kids. The kids, one thing my dad told me, he said, several things I need to tell you, son. When I finally convinced him I wanted to be a coach, he said, one thing you got to understand, you're going to be coaching these boys, and you can't do like the pros and go buy you one. You can't draft one. You can't trade for one. The colleges can recruit them by what they need. In high school, by the rule of the law, all you have for your players is who mom and daddy give you. And said, right. Mom and daddy might give you great kids, but they don't make great athletes. But you got to take those kids and make them the best they can be. And I think that with the great coaches I've had with me, just write down the list. And, I hate to mention them because I might forget their names, and I know we're running short right here time. But, Peter Brash comes to mind, my defense coordinator with me for years, and Bruce Evans and Rick Grammer and Mike Howard, and they're the coaches I have now. Most of them played for me, and they cared about kids, and they coached those kids just as hard if they had talent or they didn't help. They gave everyone the equal opportunity. Sammy Dunn was the best at that. I mean, he'd coach them just as hard, and he gives just as many reps to the guy that was the second, third stringers as he would be the starter, and because everybody's important. And
well, buddy, as we bring this part of our show to an end, personally, I want to say it's been a pleasure for me to have known you these last 20, 25 years. Of course, I knew you a while because I carried mail in your neighborhood 31 and a half years, and that's a long time for somebody to be on one route, but I loved it. I loved my patrons, and then I get into sports and something I dearly love, and of all things end up doing play-by-play for the Vestavia Rebels and being associated with you. And I know there were times when you hated to see me coming because I tell people I would nag you to death about lineups, who's going to play and who's not, just where I could prepare to do the best job I could do. But the whole time I was hindering you a little bit from doing your job. But I just want you to know that my relationship with you and Vestavia is one I'll never forget.
Yeah, and feelings mutual, Snapper. You did a great job, and I consider you a great friend.
Well, I feel the same way, and once again, congratulations to you. You ended up your career at the top of the ladder, and you couldn't ask for anything more. And to get to do something you love, and also have the Lord leading the way. But good luck to you and Miss Linda in the future, and I'm sure our paths will cross again. Folks, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll close the show up. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Stretch, workout, sweat, repeat. When it comes to fitness, you go 24/7. Now, so does Andrews Sports Medicine. So when an injury interrupts your routine, Andrews offers 24/7 scheduling for most appointments. Andrews Sports Medicine can help you overcome anything, including time. Call them 24 hours per day, 7 days per week at 205-939-3699.
And folks, welcome back. And as I talked about in the early part of the show, this will be my last program. I've been fortunate enough the last 20 years have got to do something I'd never thought I would ever get to do. And my show that I've recognized in those 20 years over 1,000 coaches, over 3,000 athletes, and that's what I set out to do. When I first started my program, college football was it. There wasn't a whole lot going on as far as recognition for high school coaches and their players. And I give up doing an Alabama-Auburn show that I'd done for a couple of years, and it was going to come back on. And I went to Don Early, who's played a big part in my life, and told him I had an idea that I would love to do a show where I recognize the coaches and athletes, because all these college stars at Alabama, Auburn, Jacksonville State, from wherever, they all played high school football somewhere. And so my idea was, my job is to sort of give those coaches and athletes recognition. And I started it out, it just, the show started, and I kept thinking, well, it won't last very long. But as fate would have it, hopefully we were doing something right, because 20 years later is when we say goodbye. And like I said at the beginning of the program, thanks to all my sponsors that have helped me through the years. Chris has been right there for me. He does a job that I could never do. And of course, probably the biggest support I've had, and I'm tickled to death to say this, has been my wife. She's helped me through this, and she's become a pretty good high school sports fan through the years on account of it. But I want you to know I've loved what I've done, and maybe one day our paths will cross, and if you see me on the street and want to stop and talk, well, buddy, I'm waiting on you. But, we've had a way that I've been to show all these years, and this is the last time we're going to do it. So as I ride off into the sunset, so to speak, You know what the snapper always says, bicycle.